Defensive Player of the Year, Heisman Trophy winner, national champion, and now reigning Super Bowl champion of the currently undefeated defending Super Bowl champion Packers, none other than Charles Woodson. How are you, Charles?
Hey, man, I'm doing great today. Great. How you doing?
I'm fine. How was that introduction? Did I miss anything there?
You probably did, but, you said enough, I think.
Humanitarian, onophile. I could go on and on at this point in time, but, there's an interview to get to. You know what I mean?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. So you have now, as a team, won 17 games in a row. You have officially gone an entire full season schedule, including some of the toughest games, playoff games, and games to get in the playoffs with wins. Mm-hmm. What is this like, being part of this thing, now, Charles?
Well, it's fun. I mean, I think when you can be a part of a team that just continues to win game after game, it's fun. I mean, it's fun to come to work. It's fun to turn on the TV and listen to everybody talk about it.
Right.
It's just a great deal of fun. So I think, for guys on this team, coming to work every day is a blessing and a privilege.
Are you openly talking about going undefeated in a regular season and postseason?
Well, we're just, openly talking about where we're at right now, and that is we're undefeated. We're 11-0. We understand we have a big game coming up this week, in New York, and understand what problems New York presents. So, all of those talks about 16-0 in the playoffs is fine, but we are focused on playing this week and getting to 12-0.
Right. That the one game at a time mentality that I'm sure has been pounded into all players for years and years and years. But have you? I mean, you've been part of a championship undefeated team in your life. Mm-hmm. Are you at all expressing to anybody about how important that is to have in your trophy case moving forward? What a pleasure that is to have and be able to look back on and treasure for the rest of your career.
Well, for us, the goal is, and will always be, to win the Super Bowl. So, undefeated, that would be great, no question about it. But the goal is to win the Super Bowl. When I think back, to college and going undefeated, in college you almost have to go undefeated, mm-hmm. In order to play for the championship. So I think that's a different dynamic than it is in the NFL. So, our number one goal has and will always be to win the Super Bowl.
So, and even though you are perfect in the win-loss column, all players, all championship players feel that there's room for improvement. Where do you, Charles, and your unit on the defensive side of the ball, what areas of improvement do you think needs to be achieved between now and your goal?
I think, for us, I think tackling is one place where we have to get better, especially late in the season. It's going to start to get cold, and, there might not be as many balls flying around in the air. Teams are going to try to run the ball. I think our tackling, is number one. I think communication and just making sure that everybody's on the same page, each and every play is another area where we can definitely improve. And if we can do those two things, I think we'll be fine.
How can you improve on tackling? It seems that, I don't know how many times McCarthy's put you in pads yet, but there's a limited number of that, and obviously in the new CBA, there's such a limited number of padded practices. How can one improve on tackling between now and the end of the season?
Well, I think, in my opinion, tackling is a mindset. I think a lot of times you go out there and sometimes you go for the big hit instead of securing a tackle. And for a lot of guys, I think it's about taking the proper angles. And all of those things, you can still work on without having to be in practice. So it's getting in front of a guy or taking the proper angle, when he's running to the sideline, not giving him a cutback. All of those things, mentally you can do in your head, and then you can go out there and perform it on the field.
You have got a front row seat for one of the more incredible quarterback performances anybody has seen in recent, maybe all-time memory, in Aaron Rodgers. What is it like sitting on that rocking chair?
Oh man, it's something I don't think any player ever thinks they'll ever see. Getting on a team, you never know what that quarterback situation is going to be like. And I had a chance to sit and watch Aaron when I first got here in '06, and thought to myself, well, wow, this guy would start on every other team, in the NFL. And now, here he is having one of the, the best seasons of all time. And it's just a lot of fun to sit back there and watch him work. And he works as hard as anybody I've been around. So, for people who don't get to watch him every day, in practice, it's a treat for us to watch him work.
And at one point, we'll in the media all stop looking him through the prism of Favre. I think we've already reached that. But you were there for the transition, and you know what Favre means and meant to that community. Mm-hmm. For Aaron Rodgers to do what he is doing as the guy after the guy, I think that's an intangible that doesn't get talked about enough. And I know he doesn't want to hear about Favre anymore, and we shouldn't look at him through that prism anymore. But to me, what he is doing and how he is turning the page for this franchise in ways that franchises like Miami, Denver have not been able, Dallas have been troubled to do for their franchises after their franchise quarterback goes into the Hall of Fame. It's incredible to me.
Well, I think, going through that whole process, I think we found out very quickly, what kind of person he was and what he was going to mean to this team. All of the scrutiny that was surrounding him, being a guy that had to come in after an all-time great, a guy who was loved by, 99% of everybody who's a Packer fan. The way he handled that, the way he just, kind of brushed it off of his shoulders. And I know a little bit probably got to him, but you know what? He stood in there tall, and then he just came to play every day, came to work every day. And as soon as he got in there, everybody understood, why the Packers went in the direction that they went.
And in this, the last game that Favre played as a Packer was the championship game lost to the Giants. And again, I know you've got a ring from last year, and you're trying to get another one now. Will that loss in that championship game be any source of motivation this week?
No, that's so far in the past. Mm-hmm. We're not thinking about that at all. This is a totally different season, even a different season from last year. When we won it. We are focused on 2011 and trying to get to Indianapolis.
2 games for Ndamukong Suh. That happened in the game that you played on Thanksgiving. What do you think of that penalty handed down by the league, Charles?
I think it's a situation that's always, tough for a player to talk about, another player and him missing games. But I thought it was something that built up and something that probably had to be done. I think it was more so his reaction after the game that kind of caught everybody off guard, more so than even the stump, and his explanation of what happened. So I think there was probably a message that had to be sent, by Roger Goodell and the NFL that, if you're going to do something like that on the field, then at least, number one, own up to what you did, and then we'll take care of business accordingly after that.
Has he apologized to the Stompee yet? I know we're all only have statements and reports as to who he's apologized to. Has he called up Evan and said I'm sorry to him, as far as you know?
Not to my knowledge. From all I've seen is that there was a call made to Goodell, but I have no idea if he's called Dietrich yet.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk Michigan. I wanted to do that right off the bat, but I had to, have my professional NFL duties to ask you all these questions first. Brady Hoke, he was the defensive end and then defensive line coach while you were there. I'd love to get your thoughts on the job that he's done, 10-win season this year.
Well, I don't think there's too many people in Michigan and Michigan fans and alums who thought that he would have the turnaround that he did. I know people thought that he would have it going in the right direction, but to get to 10 wins after what we've gone through the past 3-4 years was remarkable. I think he's just done a great job, and the thing that I look at, because I play on the defensive side, is I look at the defense and I look at the change that they've made.
Remarkable. Remarkable.
And that's it. And all it takes is a little bit of coaching. You bring Greg Madison in there, and he teaches those young guys about football and playing football. And it's evident, every Saturday. I mean, you don't see those gaping holes. You don't see 3rd and 15s being picked up at will. You see guys flying to the football, making those proper angles on tackles, and getting to the quarterback. So it was a lot of fun, to watch that improvement, right before our eyes this year.
What about Denard Robinson, Charles? I'd love to get your thoughts on his play this year. He's one of the more dynamic players in the entire college football world, and I'd love to get your thoughts on how you saw his play progress this year.
Yeah, I thought he played well for the most part. I think the one biggest problem that Denard has is turnovers. I think way too many interceptions. I think watching the games, he had to have at least an interception a game. I would say, and this last game he did a great job against Ohio State. I think he had the one fumble, but he didn't throw it in an interception. So I thought that was the biggest part of the game that helped us, win that ball game. But he runs the ball well, and I think he has a really good arm. But I think he has to do a much better job of reading defenses, knowing what he has and what he doesn't have. And if he doesn't have to throw it away or tuck it and run it, which he's very good at. But I thought, for the most part, he did a great job for the Wolverines this year.
What do you think of Urban Meyer now joining the party?
You know what? I just think it's great. I really do, because when I look at Michigan, I look at Ohio State and that whole rivalry, I feel like with what we have coaching-wise and now bringing in Urban at Ohio State, I just think that whole Michigan-Ohio State rivalry is back. And it'll be fun to watch these next few years to see the way these teams battle.
That's right. And we've got 361 more days to gloat as of this taping right now. You know what I mean?
You better believe it. Hail to the victors.
That's right. Hey, Tom Brady was recently interviewed, and he said the best receiver he threw in Michigan practice was you. Did you hear that comment?
No, I didn't hear that.
He said the best receiver he threw to in practice was you. What was Brady like back then as a quarterback in your memory, Charles?
I remember Brady being I remember him being a leader. When he had his reps in practice, I seen a guy who understood what he wanted, understood, what to do when he got in there, and I think the guys around him respected him. I thought he would be good. Now, did I think we'd be 3 Super Bowls later and MVPs and all that? No. But I thought, watching him, when we came in, I thought he'd be a good quarterback, and he turned out to be even more than that.
It's no question. And again, I said your resume at the beginning of this in terms of Defensive Player of the Year, and you're in line for that award again this year based on your play through the first 11 games, and you were a Super Bowl champion. You could be again, and you look at Brady's stats as well. You, too, could be the best offensive and defensive players the school has ever produced and will ever produce, and yet the two of you in the NFL gridiron came together on one of the more memorable playoff plays of all time.
Yeah.
The tuck rule. And I'm wondering, how have you ever brought that up to Brady, the tuck rule game?
Just briefly. We haven't really gone in depth of, in talking about it. But just jokingly, I've said a couple of things. But that was is a play, that you still think about, because every now and then they'll show it on ESPN or something or whatever, and you just think back to that time. And I thought that going into that game, we just really had a good team, and we were set to make that run. And then that play happens and the game is over, and we were all thinking for the next 5 or so minutes, however long it took to overturn that call, that we were going to Pittsburgh to play the Steelers, and then the carpet was just yanked off of underneath us. So yeah, I think about it from time to time. But hey, it happened. I feel like now, I have a championship, and hopefully I'll get another one, and so I can put all that tuck rule stuff behind me.
Last question for you, Charles. If you do get another one, this is year 16 for you. Would you hang him up, Elway style, Strahan style, Bettis style, if you win this year?
Nah. I could still play the game, at a high level, and there's no reason for me to leave.
Charles, thanks for the time. I appreciate it. Good luck against the Giants and along the way. And I'll say it, go blue.
Go blue.
All right, Charles. Thanks very much.
Yep. Appreciate it.